The dorm was quiet. Too quiet for Christmas. Outside, snow blanketed the campus in soft white, muffling every footstep, every car, every distant laugh. Inside, the string of red and green lights along the hallway flickered like a dying heartbeat. Alex walked slowly, backpack slung over one shoulder, breath visible in the cold, stale air. The smell of pine from the fake wreaths made the silence feel heavier, almost unnatural. Somewhere ahead, a faint scrape, metal against tile, echoed down the hallway. He froze. "Hello." His voice sounded small, swallowed by the dorm's oppressive quiet. No answer. A soft whisper followed, curling around his ears like smoke. "Alex." The name was familiar, intimate, but no one was there. He spun, heart hammering, eyes scanning the shadowed corners. One of the doors at the far end of the hall creaked open slowly, though he hadn't touched it. The faintest draft carried the smell of something sweet, almost like burnt sugar. The whisper came again, closer this time. "Come back." A shadow flickered at the edge of his vision, vanishing as soon as he blinked. He shook his head, telling himself it was just his imagination, just stress, just the snow. Then, in the reflection of the polished floor, he saw it. Someone, or something, was standing behind him. Silent. Still. Watching. He whirled around. Nothing. And yet, the whisper returned, now all around him, low, urgent, impossible to ignore. "You can't leave, not tonight." The hallway felt longer than it should have. Every door Alex passed seemed to pulse with quiet anticipation, as if the dorm itself was breathing around him. The Christmas lights, strung haphazardly along the walls, flickered sporadically, casting shadows that twisted into shapes that didn't belong. Somewhere, a clock chimed, though the sound was warped, distant, and hollow, like it had traveled through a tunnel of ice. He dropped his backpack on the floor outside his room, the soft thud reverberating in the empty corridor. The warmth from the heater barely touched the chill crawling up his spine. The whispering hadn't stopped. It hadn't even paused. Now it was a murmur behind doors, a rustle in vents, a faint hum beneath the humming fluorescent lights. "Alex." His name again, softer this time, like someone trying not to be heard. He froze, knuckles tightening on the straps of his backpack. "Stop it," he muttered, but his voice trembled more than he wanted. He pushed open his dorm room door. Inside, everything seemed normal at first glance. The familiar clutter of textbooks, a half-empty mug of coffee, the small Christmas tree blinking cheerfully on his desk. But then he saw it. His stocking, the one he'd hung last week, was lying on the floor. Not dropped casually, but ripped open. A faint, wet stain marred the fabric. He bent to touch it. Cold. Too cold. And beneath it, a small piece of paper fluttered. In shaky handwriting, scrawled in red ink. "You shouldn't be here." The room felt suddenly smaller, suffocating. The lights flickered again, and for a second, the shadows gathered in the corner near his bed, pooling like ink. Alex's eyes darted, searching. Nothing. A knock at the door made him jump. Hard. He swallowed, forcing his voice steady. "Who's there?" No answer. Another knock. Louder. More urgent. Then a whisper. "Don't turn around." Alex's heart pounded. His rational mind screamed excuses. Wind, prank, imagination. But every fiber of his body knew something wasn't right. He reached for his phone on the desk. Battery full. Signal strong. He considered calling someone, anyone. But then he noticed it. The reflection in his window. Not his own. A figure stood behind him, just beyond the room's edge, face obscured in shadow. It didn't move, didn't breathe, yet the air around it seemed to thicken, pressing against his chest. Alex spun. Empty room. Nothing. Only the faint smell of burnt sugar lingered, and the whispering now came from all directions, low and insistent. "It's your turn, don't run." He backed toward the door, knuckles dragging along the wall for guidance. The hallway stretched farther than he remembered, lights flickering with every step. Somewhere down the corridor, he heard laughter. Soft. Mocking. Not the cheerful kind that echoed in dorms during the holidays, but hollow, brittle, edged with menace. A door slammed somewhere behind him, echoing through the dorm like a gunshot. His breath caught. He swallowed, shaking, trying to steady his racing mind. Another whisper, closer this time, right at the nape of his neck. "We've been waiting." Alex's hands fumbled with the doorknob, and when he finally twisted it, the door wouldn't budge. His reflection in the window beside him showed eyes wide with terror, teeth clenched, but the figure behind him, gone. Or maybe just hidden. The dorm was alive, watching. And for the first time, Alex realized something he had refused to admit. Tonight, he wasn't just a visitor. He was the prey. He turned back toward the hallway. The lights flickered again, and in that brief instant, he saw dozens of shadows standing silently at the far end, waiting. And then the whisper, "Don't look away, Alex, or you'll miss what comes next." Alex didn't sleep that night. Every time he closed his eyes, the shadows from the hallway crept into his room, crawling along the walls, pooling in corners, whispering his name. The dorm seemed to breathe around him, slow and deliberate, like some living organism testing his resolve. He sat on the edge of his bed, staring at the small Christmas tree blinking weakly, its colored lights flickering in impossible patterns. Every flicker cast strange, shifting shadows like hands reaching out, begging him to look or to run. By morning, the sense of dread hadn't lessened. The snow outside muffled the campus in silence, but inside, the dorm's own silence felt alive, oppressive, aware. He tried to rationalize what had happened. Maybe exhaustion, maybe stress, but rational thoughts were fleeting. As he stepped into the hallway, he froze. Thin, elongated footprints marked the floor, stopping abruptly outside his door. They were not human, too narrow, too precise, like impressions of shadows pressed into the tile. The whisper returned, curling along the walls. "You can't leave." Alex's phone buzzed. A message from Mara, his roommate. "Don't go into the basement tonight. Trust me." He muttered, more to himself than anyone else. Basement? What the hell? But curiosity and a gnawing unease overpowered his fear. The dorm had a basement, long abandoned, sealed after students went missing decades ago around Christmas. The authorities never solved the cases, chalking them up to accidents or pranks. Alex didn't believe in accidents anymore. Small disturbances began escalating. He noticed the ornaments clinking in empty rooms, lights flickering in sequences almost like coded messages, and shadows stretching across hallways at impossible angles. A sense of being watched pressed on him with every step. In the lounge, Alex confronted Daniels, a senior who seemed to know more than anyone should. "You hear things?" Alex asked, voice low. Daniels glanced toward the hallway as if expecting someone, or something. "It's worse on Christmas," he muttered. "They linger. They like the quiet, the lights, the loneliness. Don't be alone tonight." Alex's chest tightened. "What do you mean, they?" Daniels shook his head, muttering something about not wanting to get involved, then left. By evening, paranoia had anchored itself in Alex's chest. Every whisper, every flicker of light, every faint creak became a signal. His mind oscillated between rationality and terror. Reality blurred. Dreams invaded waking life. Shadows crept when he wasn't looking, then vanished in the blink of an eye. The whispering became more distinct, forming words he recognized, forming promises he couldn't resist. He dug into the dorm's history in a library, discovering old newspaper clippings about students disappearing every Christmas, one by one, over decades. A pattern emerged: late nights alone, exploring forgotten corners, faint voices, rooms that seemed to vanish and reappear. Some witnesses described laughter or singing. Others whispered of faces appearing in mirrors that weren't theirs. Alex's stomach churned. Mara's earlier warning echoed. They're watching. They always watch. Back in the dorm, the small disturbances escalated into surreal occurrences. A snowflake drifted past his window, then another, until the hallway outside seemed to sparkle with falling ice that made no sound. Footsteps echoed behind him as he climbed the stairs, yet no one was visible. Lights flickered in patterns that seemed like words, a cryptic, unreadable message from the shadows themselves. Desperation gnawed at him. He confronted Mara. "You've seen it too, haven't you?" Her face drained of color, eyes wide, voice trembling. "I've felt them. Every Christmas. They don't forgive. They take." And they repeat. The words settled in his chest like cold stones. He now understood. The dorm did not simply haunt. It remembered. It waited. It collected those who stayed too long, those who questioned too much, and tonight it had chosen him. Against better judgment, he decided to investigate the basement. The door was heavy, coated in frost, the handle cold against his hand. A whisper slithered past his ears. "Do not come." Ignoring it, he turned the knob. The stairs groaned beneath him, protesting his intrusion. The basement was dark, lit only by a faint greenish glow that seemed to come from nowhere. Decorations from forgotten Christmases littered the floor, frozen in decay. Something moved in the corner. Shadowy, faceless, motionless. It whispered indistinctly, "Join us." Alex stumbled back. The door slammed behind him with a force that shook the walls. He tried to turn the knob. Locked. The whispering grew louder, circling, echoing, overlapping. Time began to distort. Seconds stretched into eternities. Minutes collapsed into flashes. Voices called his name. Students from the past. Some begged for help, some cursed him silently. Objects moved of their own volition. A chair slid across the floor, a stack of books toppled, snow drifted midair. Shadows weren't mere absences of light. They were shapes alive, gathering, learning, studying him. The dorm didn't just haunt. It consumed. He shouted, "Stop! Leave me alone." The response was a chorus of whispers. "Never. Never alone. Not tonight. Not ever." Panicked, Alex ran blindly through the basement corridors. The stairs he descended seemed to vanish. The basement twisted into impossible angles. Doors multiplied. Hallways looped back impossibly. In a corner, a frost-covered photograph caught his eye. Students who had disappeared decades ago. Their faces blurred and warped. One figure's eyes were his own. The full realization hit. He wasn't merely being haunted, he was being absorbed. The dorm didn't want to frighten him. It wanted him to join the continuum of whispered voices and shadows, to add him to the endless cycle of Christmas victims. Each whisper was personal now, urgent, intimate. "Your turn. You belong here. Can't escape." Alex's hand shook, clutching the railing, heart hammering. His mind flickered between horror and hallucination. He could feel the dorm pressing closer, twisting reality, shaping fear into walls, into floors, into the very air around him. Then, in a final surreal moment, the basement seemed to collapse around him. The walls pulsed like living skin. Shadows gathered into humanoid forms, faceless but insistent. He was surrounded, alone yet watched by countless presences. And in the corner, a door marked 217, "Do not enter," loomed. He knew with absolute certainty that what waited beyond it was the embodiment of the dorm's Christmas curse. Inevitable, unstoppable, and meant for him. Alex realized, with a terror that froze his soul, the dorm had chosen him. And there was no escape. The basement had become unrecognizable. Walls pulsed like veins, stretching and contracting, breathing around him. Shadows writhed, thick and liquid, pooling into forms that suggested faces, hands, mouths. But when Alex tried to focus, they dissolved into darkness. The whispering was deafening now, overlapping voices, some familiar, some alien. Every word he heard clawed at his mind. "You can't escape. We're all here. It's your turn." Alex ran blindly down corridors that twisted impossibly, stairs leading nowhere, doors opening into empty voids. Time had fractured. A second felt like a minute. A minute collapsed into an instant. He tried to scream, but the sound was swallowed, distorted, bouncing back as the whispers of students long gone. He saw them then. Figures, human yet wrong, frozen mid-motion, their faces featureless except for eyes that reflected his terror. One moved toward him, slow, deliberate, stretching impossibly as it reached. He tried to step aside, but the floor warped beneath him, tilting, folding, collapsing. He grabbed a railing that turned to mist in his hands. "Stop! Leave me alone!" he screamed, voice breaking. A chorus of whispers rose. "Never! You belong here!" The ceiling above him rippled, the lights along the walls flashing in rapid bursts. revealing a hallway lined with dozens of shadows. Every student who had disappeared on Christmas decades ago was there, their faces a blank, twisted mirror of his own fear. The whispers became words, phrases. Join us. Forever. Not yours. Alex stumbled into a room that seemed familiar. His dorm room, but wrong. The walls were slick, reflective, stretching into infinity. The small Christmas tree blinked erratically, lights strobing red and green. Beneath it, ornaments rolled and twitched like small creatures. A stocking on the floor grew, blackening as if absorbing light itself. A whisper, "Open it." Hands trembling, he reached toward the stocking. Inside, he found a small frost-covered photograph of himself, smiling, unaware, last Christmas. But then it shifted. His reflection in the photo twisted, screaming silently. A door slammed somewhere behind him. He spun. A shadow detached itself from the walls, humanoid but impossibly tall, limbs stretching, face hidden in darkness. It moved toward him, silent yet heavy in its presence. The whispers became screams, each voice a piercing echo. "You're ours. You belong." Alex ran, but every step looped back. The hallway repeated endlessly, lights flickering in sync with his heartbeat. Snow drifted inside, suspended midair, glittering against shadows that reached for him with impossibly long arms. The smell of burnt sugar filled the air, cloying, suffocating, mingled with decay. He shouted for Mara, but her voice returned only as a distorted echo. "It's too late. You can't." He grabbed a railing, desperate for stability. The walls warped again, faces pressed against them from the other side, mouths moving, whispering names, mocking him. Shadows slithered up his legs, icy cold, burning at once, climbing higher. Stop. Stop it." Alex screamed, fists pounding the floor, the walls, anything he could reach. Then silence. The room stilled. The tree blinked once, twice. The whispers ceased, replaced by a heavy, waiting quiet. He dared to look up. The shadow stood at the far end, impossible in size, faceless. Its presence was absolute, unyielding, commanding. Alex felt his mind teetering, memory and reality fragmenting. He realized the truth. He could fight, he could run, but the dorm's will was stronger. It had claimed every student before him. Its collection was vast, its reach eternal. He could not escape. He tried a final desperate plea. "Please. I don't belong here." The shadow leaned forward. A voice, deep, distorted, emerged from it. "Belonging is irrelevant. You're ours. Tonight. Always." Reality fractured. Doors multiplied, hallways bent, floors vanished. Lights flickered in impossible patterns. The ornaments on the tree rotated violently, forming faces of screaming students. The snow within the room spiraled, forming shapes, figures, impossible geometry. Alex's mind screamed. He pressed hands to his temples, wishing for the nightmare to end. The shadows closed in, moving like water, molding, reshaping, pressing closer until he felt himself swallowed by darkness. The voices crescendoed. "Join us. Forever. Never leave. Can't escape." Then a door appeared before him. He didn't recognize it, but instinctively, he opened it. Behind it, nothing. A void stretching infinitely, black and cold. The whispers penetrated deeper, more urgent. "Step inside. Join us. Your turn." Alex stepped forward, unable to stop. The world twisted, melted, and his form blurred. He felt himself stretching, folding, becoming part of the dorm's memory, absorbed into the cycle that claimed every student who lingered too long on Christmas. In that instant, the dorm fell silent. The shadows froze. The whispers ceased. And yet, somewhere deep in the infinite corridors, a faint, icy voice murmured, "Next year. Next Christmas, waiting." Time returned, but not to him. The hallway was quiet, normal, the lights flickering as if nothing had happened. The dorm was calm, festive, innocent seeming. But Alex was gone. The small Christmas tree blinked gently, ornaments at rest, the stocking on the floor empty, except for one new photograph, frost-covered, showing a terrified young man staring directly at the camera. The dorm waited, breathing softly, patient. It would always return. Every Christmas, someone else would hear the whispers, see the shadows, and walk the same endless halls that Alex had vanished into. And in the dark corners of room 217, just beyond perception, the whispers lingered. "We've been waiting. You can't leave, never alone." The dorm was quiet again. Outside, snow fell softly, muffling the world in a gentle, indifferent white. Inside, the corridors looked normal. Lights steady, doors closed, ornaments blinking weakly in cheerful rhythm. But the stillness carried weight, a sense of absence that gnawed at the air. Room 217 was empty. The small Christmas tree sat quietly in the corner, ornaments at rest. The stocking on the floor remained, now empty except for a single frost-covered photograph of Alex. His eyes stared into the camera, wide and terrified, lips parted in an eternal scream. No one had seen him since the night the dorm swallowed him whole. Mara walked the halls the next morning, face pale, voice trembling as she recounted whispers she still could hear in the silence. He didn't make it," she said, staring at the empty corridor. "And the dorm, it waits. Every year it waits." Others noticed the subtle differences too. Snow seemed to drift in hallways, untouched by wind or drafts. Lights flickered faintly, even in rooms where bulbs were new. Shadows lingered too long, shapes forming where no one should be. Some students felt watched, though no one was near. The faculty and staff denied anything had happened. There were no reports, no signs, no disturbances. But those who had been awake that Christmas night, those who had felt the dorm breathing around them, knew better. The dorm remembered. The dorm waited. And the dorm collected. A new student moved into room 217 weeks later. Everything seemed normal at first. The small Christmas tree blinked, ornaments cheerful, the snow outside still soft and quiet. But the air carried a faint chill, a whisper, almost imperceptible, curling around the corners of the room. "You can't leave." The student laughed it off at first. Dorm legends, old stories, holiday exaggerations. But at night, the whispering returned. Shadows shifted unnaturally. Footsteps echoed when no one was there. And in the small frost-covered stocking left on the floor, a new photograph appeared, showing a terrified face staring back at them. Eyes wide, lips parted, frozen in fear. Mara, sitting in the lounge, noticed the student examining the photograph. Her hand shook. "They've begun again," she whispered. "Every Christmas. It starts again." The dorm, patient as always, waited silently. Outside, the snow fell, blanketing the campus, hiding the quiet horror that had taken root within the walls. Inside, the whispers were growing louder, swirling beneath the doors, behind the walls, in the shadows. "You belong, can't leave, never alone." No one who heard them ever truly felt safe again. Some left, unable to endure the oppressive dread. Others stayed, hollow, haunted, shadows of themselves. But all knew, in some small, terrible way, that the dorm had claimed another soul. And one day, inevitably, it would claim another. In the quietest moments, when the lights flickered and the wind howled outside, a faint trace of Alex lingered, his memory stitched into the walls, the air, the very heartbeat of the dorm. The dorm was alive. It was waiting. Patient, inevitable, unstoppable. And every Christmas, no matter how bright the lights, how soft the snow, or how cheerful the decorations, the dorm whispered in that low, insidious tone, promising dread to anyone who stayed too long. "We've been waiting, and we always will." The lights flickered once more. A shadow moved across the hallway. The dorm exhaled softly, unseen, unheard, and the silence swallowed everything, except the faintest chilling echo of Alex's last thought. "It never ends." The snow continued to fall outside, pristine, indifferent. The dorm waited for the next Christmas, the next soul, the next cycle to begin again.